Time now for Press Review, and Deeptika Laurent is here in studio for a look through the papers with us. Deepti, you're starting with Ukraine and those tensions mounting also with Russia.
That's right. A lot of focus in the papers today, Sharon, on the politics of the situation, of course, and Vladimir Putin's strategy. Fiona Hill, a former national intelligence officer to President George Bush at the time, pens an interesting article in the New York Times today. She argues that Putin essentially has the U.S. over a barrel. Unlike Joe Biden, Vladimir Putin doesn't worry about public opinion or polls. His only viable political opponent is locked up. So really, he can act as he chooses, when he chooses. It's really up to the U.S., therefore, to forge a united front with its European allies. Otherwise, Hill writes, this saga could mark the beginning of the end of American military presence in Europe.
And there's one editorial that's even arguing that Russia may not be the big problem here.
That's right. It's coming from an Indian paper, so you could understand why when you read the editorial. Basically, the editors at the Times of India today warned that the West needs Russia right now, and, quote, provoking Russia into a confrontation will be counterproductive. The reason being that it will push Russia closer towards China, and together the two countries can be serious disruptors. Be smart, NATO. That's what the editors warn. And work out a modus vivendi with Russia, and that will help drive a wedge between Moscow and Beijing. Viewed from India, of course, this would also serve Indian political interests.
And staying with China, a Dutch university is cutting funding over fears of influence peddling.
That's right. That university, Sharon, ironically named the Free University of Amsterdam, its Human Rights Research Institute was receiving about €250,000 in annual funding from a Chinese university. They then started espousing views championing China's human rights record. In one example, a delegation visited a Chinese region where the government has been accused of genocide there and concluded that there was no discrimination of ethnic minorities. This all came to light thanks to a Dutch public broadcaster, and Politico here explains that Chinese influence peddling in Europe is becoming a huge problem. This incident alone is the second in 1 year in the Netherlands. Last year, a Dutch academic was found to have received funds in order to not, quote, tarnish China's image.
And changing gears, you're looking at a new study. It's linking cash aid to impoverished families with increased brain activity in babies. Tell us.
That's right. It says a lot about the human condition, doesn't it? That study is from the University of Pennsylvania. Now, researchers there what they did was they recruited 1,000 mother-infant pairs and divided them into two groups. So one group got about $20 a month, and another group got $330 a month. Then they used machines to observe the baby's brain activity, and what they discovered was faster brain activity in children whose families received greater aid. The reason why is not clear, but it's believed that better food or health care could have contributed to this, or just a reduction in parental stress, which had a positive impact on children, or it simply meant that parents were able to spend more time with their children, thus stimulating them more.
Okay, so jumping across the Atlantic, we're looking at Boriss's birthday bash. The British Prime Minister engulfed in yet another scandal.
Yet another. The British Prime Minister is accused of having a birthday party on June the 19th, 2020. Apparently, it was a surprise party thrown by his partner, but around 30 people were in attendance to cut cake and sing happy birthday to the Prime Minister, just days after he had at the time urged Brits to respect laws banning indoor gatherings. So there's a lot of anger about that. Another day, another party. That's what the Daily Mirror says on its front page. A little, let's say it's a bit of a weary headline, but kudos to The Sun today for their rather inspired headline. You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't have your birthday cake and eat it too, Boriss. It says the embattled Prime Minister is obviously already facing national anger over wine and cheese evenings held at 10 Downing Street during lockdown. His office says he was only there for 10 minutes. Still, it's a pretty weak excuse.
A lightweight excuse, you could say. And speaking of lightweight, you're taking us to the last story of the day. French scientists set a world record for the longest floating gas bubble.
Yes. A favorite childhood pastime, blowing bubbles, has sort of gotten a scientific upgrade, if you like. Scientists at the Université de Lille, they created this gas bubble out of water, glycerol, and plastic particles. The bubble floated for 465 days. Imagine how many parties Boris Johnson was able to have in that time before it burst. It did set a new world record, and they think it could be useful for things like creating longer-lasting aerosol sprays, or even increasing the efficiency of certain spray medications.
Wow. And speaking of bubbles, that bubble may be about to burst for Boris Johnson within the next couple of days. We'll see, but we won't be looking at bubbles the same way after that. Deepti, thank you for that review of the newspapers. For more of Deeptik's reviews, you can check out our website, france24.com.